Hello, second grade Smarties, and welcome to iReady Math Lesson 19, video number 1. Today we are in our instruction book and we are on pages 176 and 177. Go ahead and pause the video and get open to those pages, and let's talk about measuring. So we have been exploring different units of measurement and how to accurately and precisely measure objects using centimeters, meters, inches, feet, and yards. We've also talked about comparing those units, thinking about how a foot is shorter than a yard, or that an inch is longer than a centimeter. This week, we are going to be doing something a little different. We are going to be doing something called estimating. Say estimating for me. Estimating. Estimating is what we do when we cannot get an exact answer. So think about some of the units of measurement we have used. Sometimes when we have measured an object using an inch ruler or a centimeter ruler, our object does not line up exactly with an inch line or a centimeter line. It's a little bit more or a little bit less than an inch, or a centimeter, or a foot, or a yard. So we are going to be talking about how to estimate, how to see if something is a little shorter than a unit or a little longer than a unit. So let's go ahead and look at page 176. It says sometimes you don't need an exact measurement. You can use the math you know to make an estimate. Here are some items you can use to make estimates. So these are items that we could use if we don't have an inch ruler or if we don't have a yardstick around. About the width of your pinky is 1 centimeter. An inch is about the width of a quarter. A foot is about the length of a loaf of bread. And a meter or yard is about the width of a door. So we can use what we know about these units of measurements to estimate length. So it says that Ty wants to estimate the length of his toy car. He thinks about 2 quarters would fit under his car. So look at his toy car, Smarties. So Ty did a really great job lining up the end of his car with the end of 1 quarter, and then he made sure that the quarters were touching, but they were not overlapping and there was no gaps. Now look at where his toy car ends. All right. Is the length of the toy car longer or shorter than 2 quarters? Look at where the length of our toy car ends. Is the length of the toy car shorter or longer than 2 quarters? It's shorter, right? So, but we would need those 2 quarters because 1 quarter, that would only be a little over half of the length of the car, right? So we could use those 2 quarters to make an estimate. So let's look at the next question. It says, what do you think is a good estimate for the length of Ty's car in inches? So it's not exactly 2 inches. Is it a little more or a little less than 2 inches? A little less. So we can say a little shorter than 2 inches. Make sure to write that unit of measurement, Smarties, because we know that on our estimated length of objects that we can use, that an inch is about the width of a quarter. So be precise. All right, let's go to page 177. It says Julia wants to estimate the length of her pencil box. She knows a marker is about 14 centimeters long. I'm going to circle that. That's going to be very important. Julia thinks about how a marker would look next to her pencil box. All right, so Julia is wanting to estimate. She's not looking for an exact measurement, but she's using objects to help her measure her pencil box. She knows that a marker is about 14 centimeters long. She is trying to use her marker to measure the pencil box. Now look at the pencil box. That's that green box right there. And then her marker's underneath. Okay, so Julia did a fabulous job lining up the ends of her objects together to measure the length. And it asks us a question. It says, which best describes the length of the pencil box? Okay, so we know that the marker is 14 centimeters. Is the pencil box less than 14 centimeters? Look at where their marker ends. Is the pencil box less than 14 centimeters? No. Is it less than 28 centimeters? Now look, 14 centimeters is too short, but think about the length of the marker. If we put two markers back to back, it's going to be too long. So we would say that this pencil box is less than 28 centimeters. Is the length of the pencil box more than 14 centimeters? Look at the pencil box and look at the marker. It's more than 14 centimeters. And when we say that it is more than 28 centimeters, remember we talked about how 28 centimeters would be the length of two markers. Is our pencil box longer than 28 centimeters? No. So, guys, you are using your knowledge about units of measurement to talk about estimating length. We can use our knowledge about what units look like to have an idea if a measurement is longer or shorter. All right, and let's look at reflect number 1. It says, Hannah estimates that Julia's pencil box is 30 centimeters long. Is this a good estimate? Explain why or why not. So let's look back at the pencil box. So we know that the marker, it's going to be less than 2 markers long, right? So we know that it is less than 2 markers. If we put 2 markers back to back, Smarties, remember, the first marker would be 14 centimeters. Ooh, I'm going to make sure to be precise. And the length of a second marker would be the same length because when we measure using units, we have to use the same units every time. So when we put 2 markers together, we have 4 ones plus 4 ones is 8 ones. 10 plus 10 is 20. So, Hannah estimates that Julia's pencil box is 30 centimeters long. Well, we know it isn't going to even be 28 centimeters. Is this a good estimate? No. So we would say it is not a good, and Smarties, estimate is kind of a tricky word. So use your question to help find the spelling of estimate. So there's estimate, I underlined it so I can look back at it to make sure I spell it correctly. It is not a good estimate. Now it says why. That is a question word. We answer the word why with the word because. It is not a good estimate because, why is it not a good estimate? Think about it. Did we need 2 markers to measure the length of the pencil box? No, because the length is it more or less than 2 markers? Think about it. It's less than. It because the length is less than 2 markers. And make sure to end that with punctuation. All right, Smarties, so that is it for our first video lesson with estimating length. Remember, estimating is when we cannot find an exact measurement, but we use our knowledge of measuring and units of measurement to help us find a good estimate. All right, Smarties, remember to keep that growth mindset. Good learners do hard things, and I will see you very soon with another video lesson. Happy learning and happy estimating.